This is Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, episode number 191. Today we talk about how the complexity in healthcare calls for leaders to be both confident and humble. Stay tuned to learn more.
Welcome back to Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. This is the only podcast that shows you how to leverage polarity intelligence, an essential competency for healthcare leaders, and the missing logic in healthcare, so you can create healthy, healing organizations and become a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable healthcare leader.
We are your hosts, Tracy Christofferson and Michelle Trosett. We've been best friends and colleagues for over 30 years. And during that time, we coached healthcare leaders across North America around how to create healthy, healing organizations.
Today, we coach healthcare leaders and leadership teams to live thriving, resilient, and balanced lives, combat burnout, and create the best places to give and receive care.
This podcast is for the unsung hero of healthcare, the healthcare leader. We want you to know we see you and we'll be here for you each week. In this podcast, we're going to challenge healthcare's industry norms, flip limiting beliefs, and share proven strategies so you can be your best self at work and at home, live and lead intentionally, and experience well-being and joy.
We are glad you are here and look forward to sharing the journey with you. If you aren't totally convinced this podcast is for you, just listen to a few episodes and convince yourself. Well, welcome back. Welcome to another episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Tracy.
We're so glad that you're here with us today. As you can see, if you're watching us on YouTube, it's Black and White Day.
Black and white. That's how it is.
That's how it is.
Yeah. Super excited to chat today.
Yes. Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about emerging leaders and embracing confidence and humility.
Yeah. Two really important things when you're a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're a new leader.
Yes.
Right? Because you're just getting started. Confidence isn't always so high.
Where is that? Can I get me some confidence?
Yeah, you want to pull some off the shelf occasionally, right?
Yes. And humility can be hard too because you're trying to be confident.
Exactly, right? So it's a fine balance between these two. And you got to, we're here to help you. We're here to help you, new leaders.
That's right. And
even some of the older ones.
Yeah, right. I like to say, I was just telling Tracy, this episode is dedicated to emerging leaders and those that grow them.
That's right.
Because you know what? You are so important. Emerging leaders in the field of healthcare are critical to our future. They're critical for the health of us, the health of our children, the health of our children's children. So we don't take this lightly, the role of the emerging leader. And leading today is really challenging because we're living in that VUCA world that we always talk about now, right? Where it's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
Yep.
So
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. So, it's hard to get your footing sometimes, right? When you're on that new leadership track, we recognize that. And these times call for both confidence and humility in leaders. And what we know is, what got you here won't get you there. And so you're in a leadership role because you saw the potential in yourself, others saw it in you, and you have to kind of navigate those waters now, and recognizing the importance of confidence and humility will help you. So let's define those. So confidence is really an attitude about your capabilities and your strengths. And what leader doesn't want to feel confident?
I don't know any.
I don't either. And humility is an awareness of what you don't know or your growth areas, which is equally important as a leader. You can get in trouble if you don't have humility. So they're both equal. One's not more important than the other for to be a successful and effective leader, and to also become a thriving, resilient, unstoppable leader.
Yeah. You need to embrace both what you know and what you don't know.
That's so true. That's
right?
it. Can we stop now?
Yeah, that's it. All done.
Game over. It's been great being with you today. But I mean, really, like leaders feel, and especially I think emerging leaders, like,
Yes.
I gotta know it all. I gotta have every answer every time they ask me a question or something comes up. I gotta know the way. I gotta have the answer. You don't. So that's the bottom line. You don't, right? You just have to recognize it. And this kind of all reminds me of a quote, and it is, there's nothing less confidence inspiring than a person faking a knowledge they don't possess. True authority and true leadership come from knowing who you are and not pretending to be anything else. And that comes from Polina Marinova, from the Great CEO Exodus of 2020 in Fortune magazine, February 26th. And I think it's just so true, right? Don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to pretend that you have a knowledge you don't have. Just know what you don't know and be comfortable with that, right? That you can't know everything, but you can find people who do know what you don't know. So the whole premise of this podcast today is really about, it's about confidence and humility and how both lead to effective, successful leadership. And what happens if we don't have that kind of dynamic balance between these two. So that's what we're going to really talk about.
Yeah. And as an emerging leader, it could show up if 2 or more times a day you question whether you should be in the role you are in. So you're questioning it. Or on a daily basis, you fear you will disappoint your team or fail, or you feel like an imposter.
And if you're feeling those things, then we guarantee you're doing one or more of these things, which is not asking for assistance, trying to address all the issues yourself, and relying on your previous experiences and knowledge to carry you through. Yeah.
So we're going to tell you how to leverage the tension between confidence and humility and how it can increase the likelihood that your teams will experience the positive outcomes of both often, if not always, and very little of the negative consequences. And that's why we help emerging and evolving leaders in healthcare develop polarity intelligence as a competency. So you and your team can spend very little to no time experiencing the negative consequences of both of these poles.
Yeah. So we know when we take action to achieve those positive, that there's positive outcomes, but we got to take simultaneous action to get there, right? So let's talk about the positive outcomes that are associated with confidence. What are the outcomes that come from being confident or having confidence? One is your team has confidence in your leadership. So when you show up confidently, they have confidence in you. The other is you communicate a sense of clarity and a positive energy when you just show up in that way, right? In that confident manner. It fosters engagement and innovation, right? Because they have that belief in you. You have a confidence in what you're suggesting or what you're presenting, and that wants people to be, that enables people to want to be engaged with that, right? And to want to become involved. And then it releases a passion in others. So when you confidently speak about something, right, they're like on the edge of their seat, like ready to move, right? That and bring their passion. It's aligning with what's passionate for them as well, right? And what is important to them. And then that just spreads to others. So it becomes like a ripple effect, right? A wave of energy when you show up with that confidence and are standing in your power.
Yes, confidence. And there's also positive outcomes when focused on humility, right? So your team trusts your confidence, right? Because you're being real and they can see that with your humility. You become trustworthy in the eyes of your team. They know your intentions and the way that you bring it, and it reflects authenticity and fosters it in others and results in loyalty from the team. Like it's they want to follow a humble leader, and also it spreads to others. If you really project humility, it's going to have an impact on the people around you as well.
They're going to see that authenticity, right? It's like when I think it's so powerful when a leader just, stands in that space of, I don't have the answer to this.
Yes. Yeah.
And and is even confident in the fact that they don't have the right. Like
Yes.
they have that portrayal. It's so inspiring to other people. So that's the effect you can have, just to own it and be clear, and then engage with those that can help you, get whatever it is that you want, or learn whatever it is you need to learn to move it forward. And all of this dynamic, this energy between these two is a polarity, right? These are poles in a polarity. And so it is knowing when to have that humility and to represent that, and when to be confident. And again, we're leveraging polarity intelligence, which is pillar 2 in our dynamic balance effect. It is understanding the nature of that dynamic and knowing when you're going to need both, and how to leverage and have both in your life, and how to leverage meaningful dialogue as a part of that process, and relationships. When you have strong relationships, you feel more comfortable, right, with that humility component. If you're in a safe space, you're going to feel, and safety, all of those things are a part of those principles, right? So the first step is understanding that polarities exist, that this is a polarity. One of the ways that we help leaders start to understand polarities is in the Leadership Survival Boot Camp, where they look at their professional life and their personal life. And then we help them dive into other polarities and really understanding how all polarities work as they move into our true healthcare leader coaching program. But it gives that framework.
Yes.
Right? We provide you with a framework for really exploring polarities, understanding them, the nature of them, and creating some action strategies that you can leverage.
Yeah, and I think, the key thing that people walk away with, and what we want you to walk away with even after listening to this podcast, is there's nothing wrong with you if you, feel this tension between feeling confident and also, being humble, having that humility, that this tension is normal. And it's so helpful to understand that this is a dynamic tension and movement of leveraging both, and it requires self-awareness and vigilance.
Oh, yes.
So important. And as Tracy mentioned, the principles of healthy relationships and meaningful dialogue, they are really foundational to help you understand yourself, and then how to engage others as well, and creating this psychologically safe space for both you and your team. And it's all founded on trust and intention, trust, and potential.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you have that,
yes,
you can be both, right? You can leverage both easily. Really easily. And, we know if we overemphasize one and neglect the other, there's going to be some unintended consequences that are going to happen. So that's why that fine dynamic balance, going with the flow and understanding when to leverage both, is so important. So if we over-focus on confidence, here's some things that can result from that. One is your team loses confidence in your leadership, actually. If you're overconfident, and you're not really confident, right? Then they're going to know that, right? They can sense these things. You communicate a sense of uncertainty and negative energy. It almost becomes a forceful confidence, right? Rather than just that, that openness. The other is it reduces engagement and innovation. So it ends up having the opposite effect from what you want, and it stifles passion in others because you're more forceful. There's a more forceful energy to it, I think, when you're over-focusing, overconfident. And then the team disengages because they kind of sense like there's an arrogance to that, right? And not an openness.
Yes,
so it lacks that opening for others.
Yes.
So,
and you could also over-focus on humility, right? So neglecting confidence, I'm going to be a humble leader. That's my focus. Is over time, your team doesn't trust your confidence. Really, they start lacking confidence in you, and you become untrustworthy in the eyes of your team because you're just not exhibiting the confidence, and you're over focusing on humility, and it reflects a lack of authenticity because it's just too much on the downside of being humble, and there's just no certainty without that confidence. And it reduces loyalty from the team. They can start to question your abilities, and the team is uncertain, so they don't engage. So all those things can happen if you over-focus on humility to the neglect of confidence.
And there's some similarities there, right?
Yes, there is.
Right? There's some of the negative consequences are showing up in both poles, right? If you overemphasize. So that's why that balance is so important. And it's leveraging that tension again between, right, the confidence and the humility. And all that is, again, that vigilance, that self-awareness, that intention, that mindful choice, really thinking about what is this calling for? How do I need to show up in this situation? And just imagine, just a short time from now, when you are operating from both confidence and humility, you have that clarity, that understanding of how to shift and how to leverage both at some times, and advocating for perspectives when you're confident, right? And using inquiry when you need to learn more and you're uncertain and you don't have the answer. To really, use inquiry to find out and to learn more about whatever situation you're in, or what it is that you need to know in order to take action or make a decision.
Yeah. And when you're experiencing competing or contradictory perspectives, just really listen. That's the key thing. Listening with an openness, with an intention to learn from others. And then leaning into healthy relationships with your team so that you can collectively solve the challenges you face and stay together and move together towards your shared purpose. That will be really important. And then use participative decision-making based on collective wisdom. So tap the team. Really, they have a wisdom. You can really pull that out in your participative decision-making, and tap the individual strengths with an awareness of what you don't know and that it may impact the outcome. So we always say, lean into the team too, to just really give you direction, really. Give you insight.
Yeah, and when you have good relationship, there's trust. And there's an example that just came to my mind. And that was a really, really good colleague of ours that was a leader of a critical care unit. And she, there was a directive that was coming down from the leadership in the organization. And she thought, okay, I'm just going to bring this to the team, but I'm going to make it look like they're making the decision to do it, right? So she wasn't going to be forthright with the fact that there wasn't a choice, that it had to be done. And she wanted them to kind of come to that conclusion themselves. And as she engaged the team in the conversation, it became evident to them that she wasn't necessarily being forthright. And they said to her, has this decision already been made? And she had to be honest with them. And she said, yes. And I can see I've made a grave error here. I should just have come to you with the truth of what was going to happen, and trust that together we'll figure out how to make this, happen in our department in a way that will be beneficial to all of us, and we'll be able to manage it. And so she had to be humble and say, I've made a big mistake and I apologize, and I won't do it again. And because she had the relationship with that team, they embraced that, and they said, okay, you don't have to do that with us, and it was just a great growth moment for her. It was a growth moment for their relationship, and their trust in her didn't waver, because she came forth and was honest about it. Right. And she was learning her way as a leader and had made an assumption that she didn't have to make. Right. And so that just came to me.
Yeah.
It was such a powerful experience. And then we had another one to bring forth is somebody that we're working with in our core of support. This is a growing leader. Yes. She's been a leader for quite a long time, but just growing and emerging in her own way, and was asked to be an interim CNO at a hospital in her healthcare system. It wasn't the hospital that she works in. And she stepped into that. She just took it on. And, she'd never been a chief nursing officer before, but somebody saw the potential in her and that she could handle it. And so she went into that during COVID.
Yep.
Okay, not during the most easiest time, during the most hardest time. And she just took it on. She stepped right into that role. And what she didn't know, she was just honest about. She said, I don't know, but here's my resources. I will go. I will find out. When, she needed to make quick decisions, she knew she was backed up by other people. And she was confident in the things that she did know. And she acted decisively and made decisions. And then where she needed the help, she asked for it. And the organization actually thrived under her leadership at that time. And so she did the perfect blend.
Yeah, she did. It was amazing.
Of confidence and humility. Yeah. And she leaned into other people, right? And asked advice and when she didn't know what to do. And she's grown tremendously through that experience.
Yeah.
She was just an exemplar, I think, for that.
Yep. Another great example. You don't have to know it all. You can bring the confidence that you've built with your skills already and apply them. And you also can be honest and authentic and kind of be forthright with people too, where you are.
Yeah, just know what the moment.
Tap them.
Have that awareness. I think it's that awareness of what is this moment calling for?
Yeah.
And how do I need to show up in this moment given what I know and what I don't know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And intention's great too. We talk about with dialogue and relationships, just that intention, and just here's my intention. And
sharing your intention.
Sharing your intention can always be helpful too, especially if you're not certain the group you're with. If you don't have that relationship built up, you can, here's my intention. I'm going to share with you what I know, but there's some aspects of this I don't know. And my intention is to do the best I can and to serve you. And when you do that, then people can't help but be open.
Right.
I think, right? That's what I found most of the time anyway.
I have too. Great advice. Confidence and humility.
Yeah. There we go. Hey, we do this every time we get in front of the camera.
That's right. Well, thank you, listeners. And thank you, all you emerging leaders out there and those that are growing them. We're very, very grateful. It's been another great episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic. And of course, we're so appreciative to all of you. And we just would love it if you would leave us a review on your favorite channel. We'd love to hear from people that are listening to us. And if you want to give us any feedback or share some of your confident humility moments with us, feel free to do that. You can email me at michelle@missinglogic.com. And we're all about stories, and maybe we'll share your story on a future podcast. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, stay safe and stay healthy, and we will see you on our next episode.
Bye, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, now a top-rated podcast for healthcare leaders. Please share this podcast with other healthcare leaders and anyone else you think would benefit. We are certain that if you found value in it, they will too. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. And also, it would mean the world to us if you took a quick moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast player. It helps to get the word out about our podcast and incredible guests. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to watch our podcasts. You can also follow us on our Missing Logic social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time.